Hey there, this is Jacqueline with the Fable Tree. Today we're tackling yet another slightly more advanced video tutorial here. We're making a letterboard style perpetual calendar, and I decided to make this because my daughter and I are starting some little preschool units, and they recommend that you start every day with a calendar routine. So yeah, I could have gone out and bought a calendar, but I think this is a lot more fun. So I'm making mine pretty small. She's 2.5 years old, so I don't want it to be unwieldy for her. And then I'm actually going to do the day of the week, the month, days with the year, and also a weather line. So whether it's sunny or cloudy or whatever, but you can customize as you see fit. It's going to have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3 layers total. All right. And that is so that we have a mechanism to hold our letters in place. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a 6.5 inch by 6.5 inch base layer. Again, I'm making mine pretty small. Now, if you have a fill, go ahead and change it from white to none. Okay, just so that you don't have to remember that later. All right, if you want to take this opportunity to decorate the back, this base layer, you can absolutely do that. And in fact, I might go back and do that before I print mine out. But that's not the focus of this tutorial, so I'm not going to do it right now. So base layer here is just a 6.5 inch by 6.5 inch square. Next, I'm going to make another 6.5 inch by 6.5 inch square. This is going to be the start of layer 2, the middle layer, which is actually not going to be visible. It's just under there for support. I want to have a 1/4 inch frame going all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to make a smaller square and inset it here. All right, and I want that 1/4 inch frame, so I'm just going to do a 6 inch by 6 inch square and go ahead and use my align tool. You can go object, align, horizontal align center. And then if you have this panel over here, you can use these buttons as well. Okay, so here I have set up 2 cuts that will make a 1/4 inch frame for me. However, I'm going to merge these with some other things. So I actually don't want these to be 2 separate squares. I want them to be one frame. And I know that that seems a little strange right now, but take my word for it. Do this step. Okay, click and drag so that they're both selected. If you want, you can swap your fill and stroke just so you can see what's going on. Let me just show you my 2 colors here. So now we have 2 filled in squares, and we are going to use the minus front tool in the Pathfinder to subtract that front square, the littler square, from the back square. All right, so now we have, right now it's filled. Let's change it back to a stroke. It looks the same as it did before, but it isn't. Okay, you'll notice that I can't click either of these. These aren't 2 separate squares anymore. All right, anyway, it's important for now. So let's figure out where all of our little lines that are going to go across and support our words should go. Let's turn on view. Let's go to view, show grid, and let's go to view, snap to grid. All right. So this is going to help me kind of place things. And I'm just going to use my arrow keys to move this around so that I know that it's exactly on a grid line. That's what this snap to grid does. It's pretty cool. And I want to go ahead and just mock up one of my word pieces just so that I know what's going on. Okay, just so that I can space it out and visualize everything. I'm using Heinberg font, but you can use any font that's thick enough. If it's not thick enough, you can add an offset path to thicken it. So I'm just going to do September. It's a pretty long word, and it's one of the longest words that I'm going to have on here. So I just want to make sure it's going to fit perfectly within everything. So we're going to pick a long word. Pick a long word. You could do September. You could do Wednesday. Both of those are pretty long. I'm going to go ahead and just right-click to create my outlines so that I have the word itself. All right. And once I've got that, I'm going to come over here, make sure that my width and height proportions link is selected so that it will resize proportionally. And I want to change the height to 0.75, so 3/4 of an inch. Okay. Move this over and make sure that whatever font you're using, that it fits nicely within your frame here. Okay. If it doesn't, pick a different height. You just want to make sure that your heights for all of your letter things, all of your pieces, all of your words are going to be the same. So pick a height, make a note of it. You can write it down. You can just put a text box over here, whatever you want. All right, so I'm doing September as my test piece. Then you want to add a little rectangle. Okay, I'm going to leave it like 5 inches and then 0.15 inches tall. All right, and now we can see that this line is not actually long enough. Okay, you want it to be like a little bit bigger than, I'm sorry, a little bit wider than your word itself. All right, so I'm going to unclick this link because I want it to stay 0.15 inches high no matter how wide it is. And we could try 5.5, and that looks a lot better. Okay. You'll want to select, and you can try this horizontally aligned center just so that you're all good to go. And then you want to make sure that your rectangle is just barely overlapping the bottom of your letters. Okay. Now, this isn't one of those irritating fonts where I love this font, but let me move this little thing away. If you see, you'll see that if you look, you'll see that this S, the bottom of the S is touching this guideline, this boundary box, but none of the others are. So these letters are different heights. Ugh, it's so annoying. You could absolutely ungroup these and then horizontally align bottom, but then I feel like it looks really weird on the top, okay? So instead, you just want to make sure that you overlap these enough that every letter is overlapping. Okay. Alternatively, you could use the direct select tool and individually go in and pull down nodes on all of those letters, but that is a giant pain and I don't want to do it. So I'm not going to. And I'd rather it have just a little extra overlap. Okay, cool. So once you are nice and overlapped, go ahead and use the Pathfinder panel to unite. Now, if you don't have the Pathfinder panel, I should have said this earlier, go to Window, Pathfinder, and it'll open up a whole panel for you. All right. So you can, just to be sure everything's connected like you want it to be, you can go ahead and swap the fill and stroke and you'll be able to see exactly how it'll cut out. I'm going to leave it this way just for looks for now. Okay, so I know that I'm doing the month, and I'm going to do the day of the week, the month, the day and the year, and then the weather. But for now, just to get our frame all set up, I don't have to do all of my words. I can go back and do the rest of these later. You know that it's all going to be the same height because you made it all the same height on purpose, right? Every set is going to be 0.75 inches tall, and the width is going to be constrained within this frame because you picked a long word to test it with. All right. So let's see here. We have 6 inches of usable space within this little bit here, okay, within the frame, the boundaries of the frame. You have your snap to grid on, so that when you move something with the arrow key, it goes down by 1/8 of an inch at a time. Okay, so I recommend, depending on how many lines you're doing, you might not be doing the same amount of lines as I am. I recommend that you kind of, click around, space them out evenly. All right, so I started with this a 1/2 inch from the edge of the frame. And now I'm going to put this one 1/2 inch from the top of this line, 1/2 inch from the bottom of that one. Okay, and just continue on with that. All right, so we're at right at the line. And please understand, I'm not talking about the letters themselves. I'm actually talking about the bounding boxes. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's why I sometimes go further than I need to and then back it back up. And you can even, a good idea might also be to line these up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then we're going to see, and it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 little grid boxes between the edges here as well. So I'm pretty happy with that for now. Okay, so why did we do all of this? Well, we need to build the structure of this second layer. Okay, and so what we're really going to do here is think about how this is going to function. We are going to set these words, tuck them into a little track. All right, so our track is going to have, let's see here, our track is going to have a little support. All right, just underneath the, let's see, I need to turn off my snap to grid. I was like, why isn't this getting as close as I want? Okay, so all of it on the second, the second layer here, okay? You are going to tuck your word into a track. So underneath your word here, sorry, I'm trying to do it and talk to you at the same time, and I think it's just getting confusing. You want this little bit, you want a little line, a little support piece to go all the way across, okay, right underneath. All right, in fact, we're going to make this 6.2 inches wide, and that way it's going to extend into our frame. All right, just to make sure that we have plenty of overlap there. If you'd like, you can change the color of your fill right now, just so that you can kind of make sure that it's where you want it to be, and you want it right up against the bottom of your rectangle here. All right, now keep this, so we did what, 0.125 inches tall. Copy it and paste it and move it into place for all of your other lines, however many lines that is. And again, you want it to just butt right up against the bottom of your word. Okay, and do that again and again. One more time. Here we go. And once you're sure that everything is where you want it to be, and I think that that is, I want you to take a look real quick. Let's go ahead and fill this instead of stroke it, because you want to explore the visual effect of this. All right. Now that we've added this little line below, it doesn't look visually balanced anymore. It looks too far down. Do you see that? How there's more space up here? There's a 1/2 inch of space above the top of the letter and the edge of the frame, and there's only a little less than that below. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to click and drag just along the edge here to select all of your words and all of those inner lines, and not select that part, not the outer frame. Go ahead and object group it just for a minute. Now select all of it, including the frame, and come on over and do this vertical align center. And it just nudges it up a little bit, but guys, it is going to make a big difference visually at the end. Okay, so now click this and come back and object ungroup it, because we don't actually want any of that grouped up. Okay, so just make sure that all your stuff is good to go. Now, I know that if you're getting overwhelmed or nervous or weird about this at this point, just stop, take a breath. You got this. Even if it's not making sense right now, as long as you're following along step by step, it will work. Okay, and once you actually print it and put it together, it will absolutely make sense. So now I want you to select your frame and all of these little support beams. That's what I'm calling them, support beams. All right, and make sure that your words are not selected. Those are just there to help you visualize. Okay, and come to your Pathfinder panel, click Unite. All right, you have your second layer all finished. I want to go ahead and just make this more visually appealing and helpful. So even though this is not how we're going to cut it, I just want you to be able to see everything. Let's turn this away from royal blue to more of a walnut color, because that's probably what I'll end up doing for my top layer here. All right, come back. I actually want to copy paste this over. I don't want to move it over, because we're going to build on this frame for the top layer. All right, remember this middle layer is actually going to be pretty invisible. You're not going to see it. Okay, you did it. Let's move on to the top layer. All right, now we're going to leave our words here. Even though they technically belong to that second layer, we're going to leave the words here so that we can build out our third layer, which is going to be exactly the same as your second layer, except we want it to come up here. Let's put a different color just so you can see everything. We want it to cover both of these. All right, so this bottom rectangle of your words and your little support beam. All right, so make sure that your snap to grid is off or whatever. You want your smart guides on. Pretty sure that, yeah, view smart guides. Okay, that's these little magenta helpful lines here. And we're going to use the smart guides to make sure that we're getting exactly where we need it to be. Okay, we want it to intersect with the top of this part and the bottom of this part. Okay, so when you have the height right, just drag it over. You want it to overlap with the edges of the frame. Okay, and yes, you can technically just copy and paste like we did before, but I just really want to make sure that all of these are going to be perfectly intersected. And so I'm just going to click and drag to create brand new ones each time. Okay, look for your magenta guides. to show you that, yes, this is beautiful and exactly what it needs to be. Okay. Oh, that was too much. Got a little out of hand there. Here we go. Okay, cool. Now, hopefully you're starting to kind of see what's going on here. All right. This sits underneath your letters. This goes kind of over that, and then your little letters tuck behind this top part, sit on top of this line and holds it together, again, like a letterboard. If you're familiar with a letterboard, you're not confused at all, probably. All right, and then do the same thing. You're going to grab the outer frame, and you're going to grab all of these inner frames without grabbing any of your letters. Leave those alone, and Pathfinder Unite. Okay, so now let's just bring this over here so you can see what's going on. Okay, and I'm gonna just change it to a stroke real quick so that you can see what's going on here. Okay, so this is your outer layer with the taller bit, and you've got your inner layer, and your words are gonna rest on top of that. Okay. Okay, at this point, your frame is done. Your board, your actual letter board is ready to go. Well, I say it's ready to go. Let's change them all back to strokes and then move them over. And then my recommendation is that you use a darker color for this top layer, and that darker layer and your letters kind of come from the same wood. So if you're doing different wood types like I did, whether it's walnut or sapele or what, or if you're painting, anything like that. But you don't want it to be the light color of your background wood because that will be hard to see. Okay, let's see here. This one, I think that I'm going to put my first two layers on their own file so I can cut them at once or at the same time. Obviously, they're not going to be overlapping. Here we go. And you know what? I'm going to put this on this side so that I can easily apply 3M to the back of this side without worrying about messing up that one. I don't mess with wood glue anymore, guys. It is not worth it. So I'm going to do 3M and do it that way. And then I can delete it from over here. Now, again, personally, I'm going to do my words out of the same wood as my top layer. If you're not, put these all on separate layers. That's fine. And again, I want them kind of far apart because I want to back this in 3M. Let me clarify that the second layer needs 3M on, you know what? Let me think about this. So you can, it only needs it on the back. You can do it on both sides here and then skip it on this one. So it's up to you, you know, depends on on your preference. As long as you've got back layer, 3M, second layer, 3M, top layer, you've got options on kind of how you do that. All right, so at this point, I'm going to repeat the process that I took to create September, and I'm going to do all of my words. I'm going to do all of the months, all the days of the week. I'm going to do all the numbers, and I'm not just going to do like 1 and 2. I'm also going to do 11 as its own and 12 as its own, you know, so I want to make sure that I've got all the way from 1 to 31, and then different weather options and, you know, anything that you want to do. Maybe you want to track your mood instead. So you're like, I'm feeling happy this morning, or an affirmation, or, you know, you can get very creative with what you actually put on your letterboard. You could technically do individual letters if you felt like it, but I don't want to do that. So this is where I leave you. If you have any questions, again, I know that this one is a little bit more complex. Leave your questions in the comments here and I will address them, or you can get in touch via email, jacqueline@thefabletree.com. And if you're interested in learning to make lots more files, I do have a 5-week file design course called FileMakers Academy. We start from very, very simple. We start from very basics. In fact, we start by setting up your Adobe Illustrator workspace, and then we go project by project, building on skills that you learned in previous projects to make more and more impressive projects. So if you're interested in that, I've got the link in the description below. And again, if you've got questions about that, you can comment if you'd like. I also have a behind the scenes course tour on the YouTube channel as well. I'll link it in the description as well. All right, so that's it for this week. I will see you next time.